bill.
You said it, Kate. Former bounty hunter up against demented criminals. This one could be a real grudge match.
Good news is the public's the winner. Loses organs going for transplant.
That's right. I'll bet there's a few people would like one of Jack Wade's organs inside them, eh, Kate?
Well, here's one that doesn't get talked about much. Headhunter, an ambitious late release on Sega's ill-fated Dreamcast. Strangely enough, the game was only ported to PAL regions, but was later given a lifeline on the PS2. Even then, the character of Jack Wade is largely forgotten. So what happened? Well, this sequel happened. That and the studio shut down, but while the original game was well received on the Dreamcast and decently enough on the PS2, its sequel was kinda seen as a bit of a shitty game. I don't know, I haven't played it, but today I want to talk about the original and see how she goes. So I've played this game once before and I thought it was pretty decent, but I've forgotten a lot of the little details, so I'll be going back into it pretty fresh. So let's see if this game's a bit of a hidden gem. Alright, settle in, this one's pretty fun.
Neural resonance 120 and rising. We have core activity. Increase to 500 megahertz. Subject is conscious.
Our story begins in a lab where we are tied down to a chair. The action kicks in straight away as we wake up and break free, taking out a couple of scientists in the process. Security isn't too keen on us leaving, but we take out all those in our path before making it to the exit. The escape goes well until we pass out in the rain, only to then wake up in a hospital a week later. We don't know who we are or what's going on, so thankfully we have a nurse here to dump some info on us. We are Jack Wade and are suffering from a nasty case of amnesia, and the cure is television. The news is interrupted by a visitor, Chief Frank Hawk, who makes a start with helping us remember a thing or two, like us being his #1 headhunter. Basically, I take down the bad guys for the anti-crime network and I'm the best at it. Anyway, apparently I'm fired, but have no idea why, and I'll need to go get my license again. Next, we're visited by Angela Stern, who we just saw on the news. She wants to hire us to find her father's killer because apparently we were the last person to see him alive, and her main suspect is some bloke named Don Fulci.
He hated my father and everything he stood for. Call it a hunch.
Why don't you tell it to the ACM?
They want to see him behind bars. I want to see him dead.
I'm not an executioner.
You don't know what you are. Retrograde amnesia, remember?
We don't have a choice but to help out, as this is America and our medical bills are going to be mighty expensive, so off to her joint it is. We take a look around for some info before borrowing her motorbike and making our way to the Layla Institute to do our training.
Knock him dead, Jack.
This is a pretty decent setup, but it gets better as it goes along, and the news segments keep up the laughs. At this joint we run into this absolute Chad named Hank Redwood. He reckons he's top shit and set a bunch of records in the VR machine, so of course we proceed to go in and break every one of them, because fuck that guy. One license please. Anyway, we get our basic equipment, some level 1 clearance information, and head off to a gas station to find some cunts that are part of this Grey Wolf bloke's gang. Apparently he knows this Fulci fella. And fuck, this bike is a cunt to drive. The bikies here seem to have had their fun with a couple of squealers, but we managed to make short work of them. We eventually find a keycard for the AMCO building that might be handy, and upon leaving we run into Grey Wolf.
EMP gun. I got your number, Headhunter. They told me about you.
Maybe you can share sometime.
You won't live long enough.
We assume the AMCO building is where he's headed, so we go after him and we get in using the keycard. When we do run into him though, he sets one of his main goons on us, who is pissed about us killing his brother. This fella is tough, but he goes down after a bit of work. After that, we grab this token, make a key out of it, and next thing you know, we're up on the roof, duking it out with Grey Wolf. This is a decent little boss fight that doesn't expect too much of the control limitations. He goes down, but we don't finish him off. Instead, he chooses to give us information in exchange for us taking him in. He reckons he's safer inside. Oh, and apparently Redwood took credit for the arrest. Seriously, fuck that guy.
The word is hotshot headhunter Hank Redwood was responsible for the arrest, helming an ACN operation planned over several months.
Anyway, we can now upgrade our license again, which we'll need to do to get some shipping information after Grey Wolf gave us some details on Fulci's potential whereabouts. So we go do our training courses, get some more goodies, and let Angela know we'll be coming around. This doesn't exactly go to plan, however.
Mr. Sharp, What's the latest on the situation?
Intelligence suggests a group of armed terrorists, members of the underworld syndicate, are holding a number of people hostage.
Does this look like the work of Don Fulci?
It's too early to speculate, Kate. But I promise you that whoever's responsible will be brought to justice.
We get some info out of Hawk as to how we should get into the mall and go down into the sewers. There's plenty of baddies around as we make our assault through the car park, and already this shotgun is super handy. We eventually spot the fella that's in charge here, this guy named Ramirez, but he isn't that smart, seeing as he leaves the security card for the mall with nameless goon number 57 while he pisses off somewhere. We of course shoot this guy, take the card, unlock all the doors, and go save Angela. Now, Angela tells us that Ramirez is using this all as a diversion, and he's gone with his goons to rob the Millennium Bank. They're going to siphon funds out of the entire network to offshore accounts, so we need to help Angela get into the system to stop the transfer requests. We quietly take down some not bad guys with the tranquilizer and head over to the bank through the sewers. When we catch up with Ramirez, he's not that keen on fighting us directly, so instead he tries to get these robot spiders on us. This isn't the best plan, as we just shoot them and have them jump into the door he's hiding behind, blowing it up, but what's even more weird is that this giant tough guy will just give up rather than trying to fight us. So we pull out this truth serum that we scabbed from the other joint and find out that he's locked the other room with fake fingerprints. We then hook up Angela through this fun little puzzle game so she can block the transfer and send them a little bill. Ramirez says Fulci has other plans though, so we've got to go back to Layla and upgrade our license so we can get some more info on something called Phoenix?
Wolfpack set something up.
Like what?
Pentagon, Phoenix, Big Bang.
Along our travels, Hawk tells us that we're apparently accused of killing an ACN agent in the mall, but we say that's bullshit, and the lady at the Layla building doesn't seem to care much. So we do some VR missions and find out Phoenix is a codename for some dude named Thomas or some shit, and apparently he's moved to RiskCon 3? I don't know. He's apparently some top shit scientist and his daughter went missing, so I reckon those Wolfpack fuckers are involved, so we take out this machine gun and get to work at their HQ again, only this time we have to be careful with these ACN guys hanging around. After we turn the building's power back on, we're able to get into this locked room which has plans to set off explosives all around the city. Now luckily, they left this map laying around so we can get to work. So we speed around the city and kill these guys who must have just accepted that they're getting blown up and do this fun little minigame to disarm the bombs. Once we do this for all the bombs, we have a quick yarn with Hawk, who's gonna see if he can get our charges dropped, but a surprise visit from Redwood says that ain't gonna work out so well. This dickhead Alan seems to be involved too, and from the news broadcast we find we're gonna be sent to the Aquadome underwater prison. Now this is basically just Thunderdome, but not as cool. We have to fight this big bloke that takes down Grey Wolf, who decided that we're mates now. This kicks off a boss fight where we basically just lead him around to these electrical thingos while fighting off bad dudes with the pistol. Not bad, not great. Now after we've won, they've decided they're going to kill us anyway, until Grey Wolf swoops in and takes him down. We make our grand escape, conveniently surfacing next to Fulci's cargo ship. Now the news reckons we're all fine and dandy, but Angela ain't buying it, and Alan shows up at the house, telling us he's a dickhead basically.
Stay away from Jack Wade. He's a headhunter, old school. People he gets close to wind up dead.
I can live with that.
After he leaves, Angela tries to make contact with Jack, but the signal breaks up. At least we know the location, so at this point we take over as Angela at the dock so we can hopefully find Jack on the ship, the Queen of Hearts. Now, security isn't exactly tight, so we get onto the ship easy enough, but the guys on the ship are a little less keen on us. Eventually we do find Jack locked up though. After crafting an explosive from some chemicals just left lying around on the ship, we're able to blow up the wall next to his cell. Alright, so back as Jack, we're on the lookout for Grey Wolf down in the lower decks. Thank you, Captain. Man, these guys are really trying to protect something. Now this guy is kind enough to give us a keycard for the engine room and tells us how dodgy Fulci's organization is.
I heard they got something else in there. Some kind of a sick, screwed up experiment. A man thing.
Boogeyman, huh? Sounds like a bedtime story. Sleep tight.
So it turns out Grey Wolf is dead, and this bloke up top of the ship, who we think is Fulci, is just some bloke. The helicopter shows up, killing that guy, and guess who's back? Turns out the ACN cut a deal with the baddies, and now we've got to sort him out once and for all. After finishing off this bloke after 15 attempts, we run away from the helicopter to find Angela. She uncovers that it's this wanker Alan who was the main baddie the whole time. We reckon it's pretty fucked, but we've got to leave before the boat explodes. Now, the media think Fulci's dead, and Hawk calls us about some spicy details on the ACN that we really need to know. We need to upgrade our license one last time before we can know what's up though, so we smash out the VR missions and head over to Biotech. Down in the sewers, we run into Redwood again, who is keen to end things, but we put him down with a quick duel. Security is pretty tight. I mean, they've even got laser rooms, and eventually we end up in this giant room from the beginning of the game. After we unlock this Resident Evil style door, we confront Alan, who has old Hawkeye hostage. In classic bad guy fashion, he kills our mate, and to rub it all in, he shows us who really killed Angela's father. Whoa, hey, that could be anyone. Let's not jump to conclusions here, but we can all agree that whoever this guy is, he's bloody handsome. Angela shows up and puts down Alan, but before she can shoot us, this Dr. Zweiberg dude shows up, who's really the bad guy here, and he had us under mind control when we killed Angela's father, apparently. I mean, I'll take it. We were in the middle of a procedure when we escaped, so the doctor puts us to sleep and takes us back to where we were. It just so happens that this bloke is trying to create some super species while killing a bunch of people off with the Bloody Mary virus, and he needs us for some reason? I don't know. Things aren't looking that good, but Angela manages to wake up in an operation room next to a dead Alan, and now she needs to break us free. So, we break the security system, take care of these losers, and set Jack free. He seemed to have been incapacitated by the TV, causing some kind of seizure. He's infected with the virus, so we've got to make a vaccine from a DNA sample from the Doctor's new creation. After some more Resident Evil style puzzle stuff, we go to get a sample from this creature, but are interrupted by the Doctor. He tries to get in our way, but we don't have a problem pushing down the elderly. Now, he damages one of the computers on his way down, waking up the creature, then proceeds to get Weskered, and now we have to battle it out. Once you figure out the pattern here, it isn't that tough, and next thing you know, we're off with the sample to make a vaccine. Jack recovers pretty quickly, but the doc ain't finished yet. He gets his monster going again and triggers the sequence to kickstart the virus. Apparently the energy drink had the virus in it, and he's now going to be triggered by a specific commercial, so back as Jack, we get down to the lab to stop the sequence. The only problem is the lab is now set to blow, because fucking course it is. We're set to go, but not before the final showdown with the Tyrant, I mean Adam. This fight is a decent challenge without being too unfair, and once he's out of the way, we make our grand escape.
I feel like my whole life just got wiped away.
I know the feeling. It's time to start over. Just you and me and a stimulator automatic.
Well, that was longer than I remembered. But hey, the story's pretty fun. I mean, it embraces how silly it is and it plays it totally straight, leaving you with this crazy story that's pretty fun overall. Anyway, let's talk about the rest of it, shall we? Now, Headhunter has some pretty high ambitions with what it wants to be, and with that said, it can be a little bit of a mixed bag. Starting off with some positives, Headhunter really nails the world that it puts you in, and it really captures this scary aspect of corporate media control over everyone's lives. It's something you're constantly reminded of throughout the game, even in the loading screens. Throughout the game, you'll see a lot of news segments, and the way the anchors play off each other with a very, very big wink at the audience provides a fair few laughs with its camp. You can tell both the writers and the actors are having a great time with the material, and the ridiculousness just works for me.
Meanwhile, more power to the elbow of concerned parents, with new laws prohibiting all public displays of human or animal violence. You know, Bill, my dog just hates violence.
We could learn a lot from dumb animals, Kate. Next up, movie madness in Muskoka.
It just feels like a bunch of RoboCop fans got together and tried to recreate a bunch of what made that movie's satirical approach work. It's all played totally straight while embracing what it is, with our lead Jack Wade putting forward his best Clint Eastwood impression. Really, the whole cast does a pretty decent job for the time. I mean, it's certainly better than a lot of other efforts from that era. In 2001, you would just be expecting acting to be pretty shit, and anything else is a pleasant surprise, so here I didn't have anything that really took me out of the story. Now, the story itself is pretty crazy, with this old guy wanting to control the world, and even after he dies, he wants everything to go a certain way. It's classic crazy bad guy stuff, and the game does its best with it. Now, with that in mind, the actual presentation of the game can be a bit rough around the edges. I would describe the graphics of Headhunter as mostly pretty decent. There's some nice details on weapons, character models, environments, even explosions and flames look decent enough. The neck seams on the models can be a little bit distracting though, and some in-engine mouth movements would have been nice for the dialogue. These are small issues, but one thing that is really bad is how enemies would just blink out of existence after they're being killed like some sort of beat-em-up arcade game. Like, it would have been so much smoother to just have them fade out after a few seconds, but instead we get this jarring blinking shit. It's just a really bizarre choice. Aside from that though, the game puts a lot of time into cutscenes, specifically a lot of pre-rendered cutscenes, so much so that it's definitely what turned this into a 2-disc game. There's so much story and dialogue going on, and couple that with the live action news segments and you've got a game full of character interaction and world building. The CGI cutscenes are really the most dated part of the game, with pretty stiff movement and heavy compression to fit them all, but they do the job fine enough at least. It's not the end of the world. Alright, so we're decent enough in the graphics department. How does the game actually play? So, Headhunter is obviously going to be quite dated with its controls by modern standards, but with that said, movement and overall control is actually pretty comfortable given its limitations. It will take a little bit of getting used to, but for a one-stick game it's actually very well designed. Some areas will have fixed camera angles like a Resident Evil game, but locking into firing modes puts the camera right behind you like a later RE game. I'm comparing this game to RE way more than I expected. Anyway, you'll be given the option to do a training mission to settle you into the controls a little bit, which is well worth it, and these are done in a VR simulation. You'll be doing plenty of these simulations throughout the game to unlock a higher level license, which aren't too tedious. I mean, I didn't mind them overall, and did make sure to break all the time records. Now, not everything will be shootouts in this game, and a bit of stealth is required here and there. Its execution I would describe as a more streamlined Metal Gear Solid style approach, while also being not as well executed. The clunkiness of the data controls poses more of a problem for lining up stealth attacks than just open gunfights. It certainly could be worse, but I feel like some added depth could have helped. The combat mechanics, however, are basic but reliable. The combat can at times be pretty tough because it's actually quite easy to die in this game. Your health can get dumped to nothing in no time. This could be an issue, but I think it's fine because of a pretty generous checkpoint system. If you get killed, you'll be able to instantly reload that section without having to deal with a long load screen or anything like that. It works pretty well, so no complaints with that side of things. General enemies are pretty dumb and can be quite predictable with their movements, but that's usually something you expect from older games like this. The boss fights for the most part aren't too bad either. There's definitely inconsistencies, but they aren't completely broken at least. Even when they're a bit shit, like the Ramirez fight, you are once again helped by the generous checkpoints, throwing you right back to where you need to be. Overall, not completely headache-inducing. Now, in the world of Headhunter, real guns are a big no-no, as a big part of people dying is harvesting their organs for transplant. This brings an interesting twist to the world where you are using guns that look pretty standard, but are designed to shut down brain function so organs are not harmed.
Neural projectile, or EMP guns, attack the target's nervous system, causing severe pain and eventual brain death without damaging much-needed internal organs, safeguarding supplies for hard-working citizens and their families. From today, possession of conventional firearms is illegal.
Well, that's great, Bill. Those old guns were really nasty.
The weapon list isn't exactly big, and it isn't too out there either. You'll have a pistol, shotgun, submachine gun, tranquilizer, rocket gun, and a few explosives, which definitely don't leave organs unharmed. You slowly unlock these throughout the game, but I spent most of my time using just the pistol and shotgun. You don't get tons of ammo for the machine gun until later, and with the rocket launcher I only used it in the final boss fight. Now, moving away from the combat side of things, the environments have a nice amount of interactivity. There are plenty of sections in the game where you'll need to move things around so you can reach a switch or an object, plus a bunch of puzzles to solve and key objects you'll need to progress. I'm always down for a few puzzle minigames, and they don't interrupt the standard gameplay too much. Running around town to disarm a bunch of bombs is a cool little section each time you find a new one, and grows the button list each time. It's pretty cool. Alright, so to finish things up, we have to talk about the bike. If you played this game before, you'll know what's up. Alright, so the motorbike sections have you riding around in these open areas. Basically a section for the game to naturally take you from point A to point B. Pretty neat idea, right? The only problem is, this thing handles like shit. By design. These open area sections have you needing to speed around to gain skill points to unlock VR missions, and while I can see what they were going for, making the bike an absolute chore to ride is not how I would have gone about it. The steering is so horrible, and it brings down what could have been a much better part of the game. Really, these areas have a skeleton of what could have been a really cool open world game, but here it really needs a lot more polish before it was done, and maybe add some NPCs here and there, I don't know. I feel the game overall does pretty well, but I think it tries to bring in too many ideas at once without the development time to fully flesh those things out. If they dumped some dead weight and worked on pushing the graphics and stealth mechanics harder, we could have had a really well polished experience. Anyway, I'm ready to wrap this one up. Now this game is so close to being really great. I mean, I did have a good time coming back to it, but it's really hard to ignore certain things that are holding it back. It's definitely not a broken game. I mean, it runs well, and I had very few moments of slowdown getting in the way, but I just feel like certain things were a little undercooked, and what we're left with is a good final product, when really it could have been an all-time classic. I think for this one I'll go with a 7 out of 10. I mean, the game won me over a bit with its fun satire and pretty decent combat. Go check it out if you think it's your type of game. Anyway, that's all from me today. I'll catch you next time.